a soldier, an airman, and a Marine walk into a room. This show is the punchline. My name is Ryan Smeltz, and you're watching Veteran Talk Show.
Awesome. No pressure.
Yeah, right. And I'm going to go live on my profile and fiddle with my phone while we do it. So, all right. Welcome to the first and what could possibly be the only episode of the Veteran Talk Show.
More than likely only episode.
Yeah, right. Just one.
Just one.
Long episode.
You're going to get a lot of hate mail about this.
I know.
People are going to be like, you guys are fucking crazy. What's wrong with the douchebag in the hat? What's going on with him?
So I know you don't have a Facebook. I have a Facebook. I float just because I connect with so many people. I have roughly about 5,000 friends. And so I see that number very drastically decreasing.
To have 5 after that.
Very quickly.
After they hear they're like, oh, God, I didn't know it was that crazy. All your military friends, I think, will stay. Be like, I knew it. That's fine.
If this was MySpace, Tom would even unfriend you.
Yeah. I showed you how old we are. We all remember MySpace. Anyone who was born, who's whatever that generation, Gen Z. What's MySpace? I don't get it. What is that? I was like, man, it was a thing. It was a thing before Facebook.
You can pick your top 8 friends. Did you know that's how Post Malone got started? I swear to God.
Don't.
It was MySpace after it died, and it turned into like iCloud, and he was still putting his songs on MySpace, and it got flipped over onto iCloud. The next thing you know, he's like producing with 21 Savage and things like that. That's how he got his start. After MySpace was dead, it was a relic. They had to like kick off the dust.
So Post Malone is an accident. Is that what you're saying? He looks like an accident.
He was actually on the Disney Channel before all that too.
That makes sense. I mean, if you look at some of the, like, there's like what? There's one successful person, I think, from the Disney, or maybe 2.
There's like 9.
Is there? All I know, the ones that like not too fucking crazy that people still know about are Ryan, Notebook dude, whatever. What's his Gosling, and then
I look like him.
Yeah, definitely. I was gonna say. And wasn't Justin Timberlake on there too?
Yeah, so is Britney Spears. Ariana Grande was on there.
Also, they all went crazy.
Hey. Ariana,
I'm sure like Lindsay
if you
Lohan
see this podcast, I don't think you're crazy. And if you are, I don't even care if you stab me. Red's my favorite color.
Just practicing the stabbing, Red.
Okay. So, basic training stories. You were telling someone before we went live.
Oh, yeah. Well, now you just put me on the spot.
Wait. Let's go back. Let's go back a second because I don't think everybody realizes we've got Marine, Air Force, Army. So this is going to be exciting because him and I were talking today, and I only know what I went through. So I'm like, oh, the Air Force, where do you go through training at? He's like, they all go through Lackland.
I just want to know one thing. Did you decide to get the Harry Potter tattoo?
Oh no, that was before. That was way before.
Oh my God!
And it's not Harry Potter. I'll have you know, it's a really bad John Lennon. And here's fun fact. Here's a fun fact. I've done scientific studies on this, and I can tell how old you are by whether you say, "Hey, that's John Lennon."
I can tell how old you are by saying that's Harry Potter and not John Lennon.
Oh,
that thing faded away.
Oh,
he said,
you don't want to know
really
how much.
John Lennon.
You don't want to know how much shit I got for this. Speaking of like basic training,
I know. I was just about to say that.
My senior drill instructor at Parascience. So we every week had to like strip down into like nothing but our skivvies and like walk in this turn circles so that like they could check us to make sure we didn't have bruises or cuts or whatever. Like we weren't.
You did that when you started this episode.
I like being naked.
Joe, what are you doing? Joe, get up. We're about to get started. Put your shirt on.
Yeah, where they were fighting me to put on pants. I was like, why? It's a podcast. You're lucky I'm wearing pants. And since it's on camera, people be like, God, thank God that guy is wearing
That sounds
pants.
like something Mayor Giuliani would say.
Yeah. But no, like my senior drill instructor literally was like, is that Harry Potter on your arm? I was like, no, it's John Lennon. He's like, that's fucking stupid. And I'm like, well, you know, we all make mistakes. I caught a lot of shit for it. So the only tattoos I had this whole thing when I went in, and then I had an anarchy tattoo.
Oh.
So I have an elbow tattoo that I got when I was like 18 or 19.
Those are the best decision tattoos.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I have made nothing but good choices with my life. For those of you who can't see me, I'm gorgeous. And actually, the first day we picked up. So when you go to boot camp, you're in the Marines. You're there for like a week without being with your drill instructors. So you run your initial strength test, and when you come back from running your initial strength test, that's when you pick up your drill instructors. These are the guys. So, but when you do that, your company commander comes in, and you're like full on, like they strip you down naked, and you have to do the whole spin in a circle thing, and he's making sure you don't have any, like I don't know. I think he's just like
contraband.
Yeah. No, it wasn't like prison where they were like asking you to bend over and cough, but. I don't know why they did it, but he saw the anarchy tattoo and he's like, anarchy, huh? He was a captain. He was like from the air wing. He was like, you ever tried to raise arms against the government? And like, I've been on the island for like 6 days. So I'm still a
He
smart
gave you
ass.
an out.
Yeah, I was just like, not this government. So thinking I was like, a smart guy. And that went over like a turd in a punch bowl. Like they didn't do anything right then and there, but like I could feel all like my 3 drill instructors just all stare at me. And I'm like, this is what it felt like for that dude in Jurassic Park who was surrounded by the raptors. He knew what was about to happen before it actually happened. And I got
Clever girl.
I got lit the fuck up for that too. After that, like, so the officer leaves, and they're just like, good. they looked at me like, we know who you are now. And that was the moment in my Marine Corps career. 6 days in, I was like, I am never opening my mouth to an officer ever. Like when I first dropped to the fleet, I was like, I do not want my CO to know my name. Like other than my platoon commander, that's the only one who I want to know me.
I'm sure you had like the greatest name, be like, Anarchist Harry Potter.
No, they're not that smart. They just called everyone like shitbird and dumbass. And
They got creative with our names.
No.
We carried it for 3 years after you left basic.
Fuck stick was a popular one.
Yeah.
I think I called you that today. Like just that.
I didn't know what that was until I joined the
Like
Marines.
9 or 10 times. Yeah. It was just in passing. We had, so I told you this earlier. We had chef, or cook. I forget. I'm pretty sure it was chef because,
that was a job?
No, that was his nickname because when we got to the
Did he
grenade
talk like
range,
Isaac Hayes or something.
he cooked it before.
Oh.
Yeah. So obviously, if you throw a grenade in real life, you want to cook it off a bit so Haji doesn't throw it back because that's a possibility, and we don't like to get blown up by our own grenades. But on a live grenade range with round browns, you want to make sure, the drill sergeants, you don't want to cook it off after you toss the spoon because, well, as this guy quickly found out, the drill sergeant snatches it out of your hand, or heaven forbid somebody dropped it in the pit and he's throwing it and then grabbing you and body slamming you right behind the blast wall.
Wait, did you guys do that in basic?
Yeah.
Yeah, see, we didn't do that in basic.
Okay.
We had like the blue bodies, but we didn't have, and we'd only like mess with those like towards the end.
Yeah.
We didn't like throw live hand grenades until we went to infantry training.
So we practiced a lot, but the single live grenade that everyone throws in the Army, or at least when I went through basic training in 2005, was...
we always have to say that when I went
Yeah.
back in my day.
Well, now I'm pretty sure they're wearing masks and trying to figure out what bathroom to go in. But back when I went through basic training, in the first 9 weeks, you had to toss at least one live grenade. That was like one of the major training events. Because like I was telling him...
I think they had us actually throw any grenade. I think we just did... Yeah, I don't.
Well, that's why you didn't have anybody nicknamed Chef.
We didn't have nicknames.
Well, this guy, he got called Chef because he cooked off a grenade. And
you didn't get nicknamed. I mean, I didn't get nicknamed until the fleet. Like, that's when I got, like...
What was it?
I'm not going to go through that. I'm not drunk enough. No, my nickname became Caveman.
Okay.
Because, you know, I have very pronounced facial features when I'm, you know...
Okay.
I've got a pronounced brow line. So everyone's like, hey, because the Geico commercials were out with the caveman back then.
Oh, okay.
You remember those?
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, you kind of look like that guy. I'm like, fuck you, dude. They're like, hey.
Thank God you weren't short. I would have called you Dumbledore.
We're not going to let this end, are we? No. Let's get past it.
It hurts.
All right. I'm done.
Let's move on. It's not Throat Punch Thursday yet.
No.
So yeah,
I just want to say I'm offended, and we're going to cancel you.
Canceled.
Air Force is not PC rated.
Air Force. Sorry.
Yeah, don't you know? As soon as we get into boot camp, they put us in a hot tub and give us pedicures.
Dude, I do know this. You guys got paid extra money when you came to Marine bases.
I know that too.
I know this because I ran into some Air Force guys at Camp Lejeune. They're like, hey, your barracks suck. Like, I'm glad we get extra pay. I'm like, wait, you get extra pay for being there?
And
what's
in a hotel while we're there too.
Like, fuck you, dude. This is where we have to live. Like, this shit sucks.
Why did you pick infantry?
No, that's everywhere. That's everywhere. I was like, oh, these are nice barracks rooms. And then, like, the Air Force guy, I randomly, I don't know what the fuck he was like PX or something. And he was like, yeah, we have like suites and shit. And I was like, suites? Yeah. He was like, yeah, I have a single room that like with a common area we share. And I'm like, I fucking want to hurt you right now.
And we got Wi-Fi and everything.
So Joe, what's the worst thing? Like, maybe not the worst, but what's something terrible you had to go through in the Marines? You're
in the Marines in general. I mean, just, you know, generally having to like go to Iraq was pretty awful.
Okay, fair enough. Get more specific. So like I'm thinking, I got to Fort Polk. I thought I was awesome. So they just come out with ACU. So I was a BDU guy up until I got down there. So I was like, all right, I always wanted to figure out the shortcut. So I went to the clothing and sales with a couple dollars of signing bonus they gave me. And I bought a couple sets of ACUs. The boots, you had to get different socks, undershirts, everything. So I spent a few $100 on brand new uniforms. And then we were going through a class at the learning center around the corner. And the staff sergeant, my squad leader, was like, hey, if you need a ride, show up here. I was like, cool, I don't have to go. I have a car. So I grabbed a couple of guys, hop in the car, go over. And then he comes up to me in class and is like, hey, after class, you're going to meet me on the field. Fuck. What did I do? So we get done with class and I meet him there, and he has me and the other kid I gave a ride to, or the other kid from our squad. Of course, low crawl, roll left, roll right, and it's Louisiana.
So which, you know, I lived there for a while. That was pretty.
So we were already below sea level, so it's wet, it's muddy, brand new uniforms, just totally trash.
Yeah, that's just called training, dude. That's just some good training.
Well, then come to find out, the reason for it was because, of course, he said if you need a ride. But I, one of the people with a car, in addition to him and everyone else, was one of the ones supposed to give the ride. And since the other kid, you know, I was brand new private in the Army. Right. It was my first duty station.
Whole hazing ritual.
I was like, oh, okay.
And yeah, hazing still happens. I don't give a fuck what they say. If I went down to Camp Lejeune, they were like, "Oh, we legitimately don't haze." I'd be like, "You're a fucking liar. Like, you are a fucking liar." Like, I get that's what like the politicians and the officers say, but when you're getting dropped to the fleet, you're getting the shit kicked out of you somehow. Like, you're getting hazed. Like, that shit happens.
What was it like for you?
Like, so you know, in general, life in general, just. I mean, it was fun, but at the same time, it like sucked. Like, I don't know. Like, it's weird to say. So like, I'm trying to think of like a really funny. So when I dropped to the fleet, brand new PFC, private, whatever, I can't remember what my rank was. We show up to my battalion, we get put into our company, and our company guns is going through and like assigning rooms and shit to all the new guys. And there's like five or 10 of us coming into Fox Company, and he tells us, he's like, oh hey, by the way, the rest of the company is coming back from training right now. We're like, oh cool. Like, we're like, we think for what, like, we were told like we would get fucked with, but we weren't told like it was going to be bad. And it, like, you kind of had to earn the respect of the guys when you got dropped to the fleet. Like, you just had to earn their respect. And so anyways, these guys come back off of 7 tons, and we're standing in the company parking lot as the 7 tons roll in. We're seeing these guys jump off. What I now know happened was they were coming off of what's called Defense Week, where they were like, they had been like, they had gotten like 3 or 4 hours of sleep over a week or some crazy shit. Like, they were just out in the woods at Camp Lejeune, fucking just miserable for like a whole week. And so they get off the 7 tons, they're all tired, and they just look miserable. We're like, oh. And they're looking at us like, I fucking hate you. Like, that was kind of, it felt like you were going into prison the first day. Like, they were all looking at you like, yeah, you're my bitch now. Like, okay. And I imagine that's what prison is like. So we form up, and like, we fall into our platoons that we have been assigned, and you know, the company gunnery sergeant comes out and he just starts yelling. He's like, our barracks look like shit and blah blah blah. And I guess what had happened was they had what's called we did like a draft. So after every deployment, Marines would leave and go either get out or go to different duty stations. So you'd have one platoon that would have like 30 dudes, and you'd have another platoon that had like 10. So they would like move the senior guys kind of around. So the barracks rooms were all, everybody was kind of living with everybody. You would have like 1st platoon guys living with 3rd platoon guys and 2nd platoon guys. So this day, the company gunnery sergeant was just like, we're going to make sure all the platoons are where they need to be in the barracks. Yeah. So 1st platoon is going to take these rooms and this floor, and second, you know, and so on and so forth. So everyone's got to move, and we're doing this before we get off work tonight. And you know, I didn't have a room. Like, my shit was still staged by the barracks. I was like, I already have my room. I'm good. Like, I don't have to move. Like, that's not how it went. Like, I just had senior guys coming to me. It was like, fucking Boot, come here. And I'm like, oh shit, what's going on? And they're just dragging me and like having me move shit. And then we had to clean stuff. So they made us clean our room, and there's a pounding on the door, and there's this dude, and you know, I don't know what the rules are for names, but he's from Southie, and he was a senior guy, and he pounds on the door, and he's holding a giant, like, one of those like oversized beer mugs filled. It had to have taken like 3 beers to fill this thing.
Nice.
And he's like, hey, what's up? Welcome to Fox Company. When I finish this, I'm gonna come back here and beat the fuck out of one of you. And he just walks off. We're like, amazing. Like, yay. So, you know, another guy comes by and is like, hey, keep cleaning your room. And they, you know, are coming in and fucking with us. Like, they were like rubbing like their fingers on shit. Be like, oh, there's dirt. Stick your tongue out. And then they like run the dirt on your tongue. And we were like, oh, okay, this is, I guess, what hazing is. And it's like 20 minutes later, there's another pounding on the door, and my buddy just opens it up, like the guy I'm rooming with, and there's 3 boots in this room, 3 new guys. He just opens the door and just gets fucking sternum checked. Like, dude, he goes down on his bed, he's like, fucking told you. And just walked off, and we're like, oh, okay, this shit is real. Like, all right, man, this is the Marine Corps. Okay, we'll see how this goes.
I feel like after big hawking guy with, you know, beer mug pounds on the door and he says, I'm coming back to beat the fuck out of you, I don't open the door anymore.
Oh, you couldn't do that. You couldn't do that.
Oh, okay.
Because then you'd have they would stack up on the door and they would break that shit down. Be like, oh, these boots don't want to answer the fucking door, and then the entire platoon would come and stack up on the door. And they'd break it. They'd find a way. They would find a way to break that thing down.
I think I would have held up a fire extinguisher in front of his hand.
You think we had fire extinguishers in our room? Cute. We didn't have those. They're like, oh,
well, you did, man.
Barracks. Like they're like burns
I
down.
think you did have them. You just didn't think about them.
No, we didn't have them. We had
if they
sprinkler
fuck
system.
out of here.
No, we had like sprinkler systems.
If they burned down, they would just have you build new barracks.
Shit, they just like set up tents, bro. Like,
come here.
that fucking tent.
Sucks to suck.
Yeah,
that's funny.
But that was my night dropping to the fleet, and I was just like, oh shit. And then like the rest of the night, they just would come by and fuck with us. And then when I was getting out, like kind of the reverse of this, we got caught with our boots. I think it wasn't before I got out. It was between deployments. We made them do the police call.
Yeah.
Like where you go shoulder to shoulder. If it doesn't grow, it's got to go kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so we're all standing like as all the boots are just walking like shoulder to shoulder, picking up cigarette butts. Like guys are emptying their trash out onto the lawn as they pass by. You missed a spot. Well, apparently, so we were right across the parking lot from a chow hall, a popular chow hall, and I guess a staff NC, like a sergeant major or a master guns or somebody was like, "That's fucking hazing." So we had a huge talking to, and like, "This is not okay," and blah blah blah. So we're like, "All right, cool. Well, we won't do it again." They're like, "No, all the senior Marines are now going to stand fire watch." So they had like 2 Marines on each breezeway standing fire watch on top of the duty NCO and the A duty. And I was like, oh, I'm not going to let this stop like fucking with these guys. So what I'd do is I'd go into like a boot room and I'd open the door and I'd flip on the light, 1 o'clock in the morning, flip on the light, like, "Hey, is everyone okay in here? Have you been hazed?" Like in every 15 minutes, I would just walk the door.
Are you being hazed?
Are you being hazed? Is everything okay? I was touring my posts. I was following one of my general orders. Like, what can you do?
That's brutal. I feel like I got to Fort Pope after training, first duty station, and I feel like the hazing there was lazy because my introduction to the post was like a staff sergeant that ended up becoming a recruiter, one of the most laid back guys I've ever met, with a specialist who kept telling us how like terrible he was and how if you like piss him off, he will flip shit. And then this dude would show up and just agree with him. "Oh yeah, I can get pretty angry." And I'm like,
"Yeah, guys."
Somehow I don't believe you. But then when I went to Germany, after I got back from Iraq and I went to Germany, that was pretty bad. The hazing there was more like you have to take. Have you guys ever been overseas and had to get like we had to get the usurer license? So you had to take a driver's test. The driver's test to get the usurer license through the status of forces agreement over there was harder than the regular driver's test here in the United States. And so if you failed it, you got to do basically everything you just talked about. Like, it was bad. And we were MCOM. So we stayed in the Air Force barracks over there.
So
whereas down the hill,
like a Four Seasons. That's what I envisioned. When the Air Force guy told me what he lived in, I was like, "Oh, you guys have it fucking nice."
So
there wasn't much hazing in the Air Force. I mean, maybe there was, but at least I didn't experience it. When I got to tech school, this like 5'6", he loved My Little Pony. He was called a brony.
Oh, so many jokes. So many jokes.
And he tries to haze me, and I just kind of was like, "Are you serious? Is this really happening?" And then he came by one day and he kept on turning the lights on and off, lights on and off, lights on and off. I got up and I punched him as hard as I could in the chest. And I was like, "That's the end of that." And from that day on, that was the end of hazing in tech school. And then when I got put at No Hope Pope, they put me in an
said No
abandoned,
Hope Pope.
Yeah, it was these barracks that were abandoned. Like they put all the good kids over here, and I'm like, I have kind of a bad reputation, anyways. And I had this whole barracks all to myself. And I was like,
I'd have been like Macaulay Culkin in Home Alone. I'd have been like,
I was. I just
you would have
was
given me a
guys
barracks
leave
for
me
myself. I'd have been in there just raising hell.
It was fine. I was just like, okay, cool. And then when I went to Hawaii, nobody messed with me. When I went to Texas, nobody messed with me. When I went anywhere, I just walked in and people just left me alone. It wasn't like a coalition of breaking the new guys in. Like, I always knew who the new guys were. When I was like, all right, they went and did. And they like, it seemed like they poked the bear. They were like, haze me. And they would get hazed. And I was just like, y'all are dumb as shit. Just fucking leave them alone. It's like one of those things. It's called like it's called Navy. It's like never again volunteer yourself. It was just like you never put
voluntold. Nobody we were smart enough never to volunteer for anything.
Well, I always knew when the guy that came to like been like, hey, we're gonna need these persons for the assignments. I was like, I need to go check the circuit breakers real quick. The welder's acting up. He was like, okay, you're excused, Airman Mazza. I was just like,
there were two things I learned real fast, and that like I swear to God, I was ingrained in training. You don't ask questions. So like when their officer's giving a speech or whatever, you're around an officer and he's telling you what's going to go on, and he's like, anybody got any questions about this? No one. Like, ooh, me. Like everybody in
don't lie. There was one that
there was always
one that hadn't learned yet.
Everybody in the audience would be like, motherfucker.
No, we would just be like, I'm gonna fuck that dude up as soon as we leave here. As soon as the guy with the silver shit on his collar turns his back, that dude is gonna get fucking beat.
There's always one sadist in the bunch. I swear to God, they're like,
Carl.
Yeah, hit me. I like
Carl.
it.
Shut up, Carl. Shut the fuck up, Carl. Shut the fuck up, Carl. You're right. There is always one. But I learned that real fast, and I learned never volunteer for anything.
Never volunteer.
And like when, hey, we need volunteers for this, you would see a sea of people just standing there like. And so
we don't have anybody.
Yeah, like I guess we don't have.
We're all
no
busy.
habla inglés.
Like everybody spoke like a different language at that point. So like, my first platoon commander was actually a staff NCO, and he kind of knew. He came up through the ranks. I mean, he started in the Army and then came to the Marines.
That's
came up
different.
Through the ranks.
That's different.
He came up through those ranks, so he knew. So whenever there was like, oh, we need volunteers for this, that, and the other, he would just walk out to the platoon and just be like, you, and you, come here. Fuck. And you're just like, he wouldn't even ask because he just knew. He's just like, I'm not even gonna fucking bother with us. Yeah, but he would just be like, y'all coming with me.
I was in those briefings. We had one before deployment. It was in an auditorium because it was like one of those ones where it was huge. It was going to take hours. I feel like it might have been a sensing session. I don't remember. I just remember brass on stage or maybe up front had a microphone so everybody could hear. And we're talking. We get to that point. Any questions? Does anybody have any input or feedback?
Fucking death by PowerPoint.
And the whole auditorium is silent, except for that one guy.
Excuse me.
Yeah, I think it would be. This is a true story. I think it would be a good idea if we were able to get off by 4:00 every afternoon, and every Friday. I didn't even finish yet, and he's already laughing. And
I just feel like the Marines in there, like, oh, all right, yeah, we're tracking. We got that.
And every
dog, sit down.
And every Friday we have a pizza party.
Oh my God!
True story. True story.
That guy was found like lost in the woods.
Not everybody's favorite, but there were a few of us sitting over there with each other.
That is like, I give props.
I'll buy him a beer. I'll be like, all right.
That guy. Like,
well, that's the thing. We were about to deploy, so nobody was super new because we got fenced in. We weren't taking in brand new privates the day before we deployed. So this guy, I mean, I remember he got his stripes. I'm pretty sure that was midway, maybe almost all the way through deployment. But I'm like, what? Me and my friends are sitting over there. We're like, He really is. He serious? We thought he was messing around. He wasn't. He was dead serious.
We had a divisional meeting. I can't remember when this was. Like between, I don't know if it was between deployments or what. And we're in the gym, and it's like the entire. It's not the entire division, but it's like, I mean, there are people there. There's Pogues in there. There's infantry guys in there. There's everybody's in there from across the division. They've like got a representation, and I can't remember. I do not remember what this brief was about. Like, you cannot, like, you're like, what? Why were you there? I have no fucking clue. They told me I had to be there, so we went. And at the end of it, I can remember I don't know if it was the general or the sergeant major or whoever was like, anybody got any questions? And I'm sitting on like the second level. And I looked at, and there's this one guy who stands up, and you heard a collective just like, oh. And like, I was like, someone's just gonna fucking beat that dude. Like, I had no clue. He wasn't with my unit. Like, I had no idea who that guy was, but he asked some stupid fucking question, and we were just kind of like I remember looking at mine, like turning around and seeing, because we're in like auditorium seating.
Yeah,
and I see all the guys like sitting behind me, and they're just like hate that, like just the 1,000-yard stare. I'm just like, God, I'm gonna fuck you up, dude. Like, better be glad they don't let me have a fucking loaded rifle right now, because you would be it. Like, you would be it.
I don't know if this is like true in the Army or in the Marine Corps, but whenever we held the mass presentation or death by PowerPoints or yada yada yada, they parade the general on stage or some fucking colonel, it was always the dumbest shit that they would talk about for an hour and a half. And we're like, we could have fucking got this in an email and been doing our job 15 minutes later. What the fuck are you still doing up here?
Yeah, we didn't have, like, first of all, generals were like, oh, I'm not wasting my fucking time.
I've only seen two. And I was just like, we got a general to tell us not to rape people? No fucking shit.
I do have a funny story about that. No, we never, so in the Marines, I mean, I can't speak to the Army, but like, we never, I think that was the only time, that one story was the only time I was like ever around other people in the division. Where I was like, oh, there's more than just infantry.
Right.
I was like, this is back before women were allowed in combat. I'm like, because that's where my mind is going. We were all looking at like, oh, do her. Like, we felt like do her. The pigtails and we'll talk. Do her. Like, who hasn't done her? Like, that's like, we were just like, oh. So we really weren't paying attention. But I never had, like, we had the only death by PowerPoint class was either before Iraq or Afghanistan. It was before one of my deployments. And they were literally checking off the boxes for all these classes that like we had just missed. And there was one, like, we knew, like, we were going, I think it was Iraq. We were like, we are going to Iraq. We don't have to worry about this. But they put up this slideshow about the amount of AIDS in Africa. Like, we're going on a MEU. And I'm like, these fucking guys know we're going to Iraq? Like, what's going on? And it's just my battalion. And I'm like, we are literally going to Iraq. Why am I having to listen to about like AIDS cases in Africa?
That's a complete different continent.
Like, yeah, like, do you guys not know geography? Because if you don't, I've got problems.
You know where you're sending us? This is not even the same map.
What's going on? Like, but they're talking about it, and but they're also bringing up like rape in Africa and everything. And they're like talking about the culture there and everything. And so they're like, they bring up this slide, and it's like it looks like a little cock ring.
Oh.
And it's got a pane of glass in it.
It's a shame that you know what that is.
Well, I know this because
he was in the Marines.
I was in the Marines. So they were like, this device is put into daughters and single women in parts of Africa. I'm like, we were trying to figure out what the fuck it was. We were like, when you say put into women, what do you mean?
You said it had glass in it?
Yeah, so there was like a little pane of like plastic or glass or something. And so so they were telling us what it is.
Oh
and I'm like,
my God.
They're like, So if a penis enters a vagina, and they're trying to be all PC about it. What happens is if it's a woman who's unmarried, spikes come out of this side, and it's like the reverse tire hooks, and so they hook on your penis. So don't fuck girls when you're in Africa. And like finally, someone just yells out, "We're going to Iraq!" But when they showed the next slide, they showed this like device with like the hooks out, and there was this was the entire battalion. All infantry Marines just went, "Oh!" Everybody envisioned putting their cock through that thing, and then the spikes coming out, and everybody's just like, "Oh, like that's gotta hurt." And like, we're like, "What?"
They've got to talk about rape in the
We're
fucking
going
military.
to Iraq.
Every place, and they have to use like hyperbole at its greatest extent, even when it's like in a different continent. When I was going through basic, there was MTIs raping trainees on a massive level. Like they were like, what the hell is the Air Force doing? And they were like it was like a great big like investigation at the time, and all the guys were like, well, it's fucking let these female MTIs rape me. I'm just ready. And they were like, nah, these MTIs are raping the dudes. And then every single Air Force member was just like, we all looked at our MTIs and been like, we will beat your ass. And the MTIs looked us back, and when they were like, no, you won't.
Well, this brief was more about like, don't go like if you go to Africa.
They just didn't want you becoming non-deployable because you caught something.
If you go to Africa, don't like just bang random
you go
bitches.
to Germany and then you go to Iraq, right?
Yeah, well, so
there's
that
no
was
stopover in Africa.
No, there's not. Like this was literally like somewhere somebody was like, oh, we need to check off all of these boxes so that you guys can deploy.
It was a list the lieutenant got in his email, and he was like,
technically attached to the 22nd MEU or whatever, which is part of the MEU. So you had to get MEU boxes checked, even though you were going to Iraq the entire time. You were still attached to the MEU, or at least that's how it was explained to me. And I'm like, so that was an entire day. We showed up to the movie theater behind our barracks at like 07, and we were in there till like fucking 6 o'clock at night, just getting bullshit PowerPoint slides. And the reason that I was told by one of my senior Marines was, oh, they're just checking the boxes because we're on the MEU. Like we're not on a ship floating around on that MEU, but we're part of the 22nd MEU that's in Iraq. Or whatever the MEU was that was in Iraq.
So if you were on a float, you didn't have to deal with that?
No, you did.
So it's it's like us getting MNFI briefings.
Yeah.
Because we fall under Multinational Force Iraq. We get the briefing, but we're not going into Sadr City. We're not going across the Syrian border.
I never went across. I mean, we saw it. We're like, or it's somewhere out there in the desert.
Sorry, being told to guard it after the SEALs went over and did the deed.
That was fun. Like,
hey, wake up! We got guard.
I have no idea what happened. I can remember seeing the helicopter fly over with all the SEALs like sticking their legs out, looking just badass as shit. Because let's be real, SEALs are badass motherfuckers.
Yeah.
And I can remember, it's like, where are those guys coming from? And so they're like
Syria.
They're like Syria. They just went and fuck shit up over there, and we're like, and then like rumors started flying around because we weren't far from the Syrian border. I mean, we were right there, and someone was just like that. Someone asked a question, was like, "Are we going to Syria?" And everybody that went from that was going to like we're fucking doing this, and like you had like a whole battalion of Marines just like we're fucking doing this, like. This was well before all the shit went down in Syria that went down.
Yeah.
This is well before all of that. But people were just like, yeah. I'm like, wow, we are literally 15-year-old high school people where rumors just spread
like wildfire.
Yeah. Like no one has said we're going to Syria. Why would we go to Syria? But people like I had guys like, I heard, dude, we're fucking going. We're going to load up in Chinooks and we're going to fucking land and blah, blah. I'm like, no, bro. It's not how it works. Like, I'm sorry. Like,
that was us, like, every time in Iraq we were rolling out on a mission. You know, I did dead ops, so one platoon had the air missions, another platoon, you know, was running the high value guys and guarding them. So every time we rolled out, it was like, you know, oh, this is, you know, we got this mission, this is gonna happen, and you know, we're gonna get some trigger time, and you know, usually it was the same.
There were so many rumors all the time.
Hurry up.
Rumors?
I mean, about what? Like, of course,
Just
we got rumors.
random bullshit. Like, so one of the popular rumors, like, I cannot tell you how many times, like, Lindsay Lohan or Jennifer Lopez died while I was on deployment. Like, just some hot girl, like, back home, like, when I was in Afghanistan, and by like I'll never forget this, my platoon commander, and I give him props for this because he started getting in on like practical jokes and shit. But he wrote on the whiteboards, like, everyone must have a clean shave. Toby Keith and Taylor Swift are flying in at 07 tomorrow morning. So we've got to have all of our nice camis out and shit. And I remember seeing that in front of the COC. And I walked in, I'm like, the fuck is this, sir? And he's like, what are you talking about? They're coming. Like, USO's coming out here. I'm like, dude, we are, like, we're in a patrol base in a hot combat zone, like in a kinetic zone. Like, there is no way the USO is sending anybody, especially anybody who's worth the damn and has a name, out the fuck here. Like, not happening. He's like, shave your fucking face. It's happening. I'm like, I'm going to shave my face because you're my officer. You told me to. But I know this is bullshit.
I had a supervisor that one time said that Winona Ryder was going to shoot ping pong balls out of her vagina. And I was like, you're fucking with us. And
well, that's true. That happened on South Park.
The movie that night. And I was like, you son of a bitch.
I'm not going to lie. I'd pay to see it. I'd be like, all right.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Like, it doesn't even have to be someone famous. If you just came to me and was like, hey, we're going to have some...
Hey,
like,
Winona Ryder's fine.
Yeah, absolutely. No argument. But, like, if you were just like, hey, Sally so-and-so is going to come out from Alabama and shoot ping pongs out of her twat, I would be like, how much do I got to pay for that shit? Like, oh, you're telling me it's free? I'm there, dude. Like, I'll watch it.
I don't know about that. I saw some women in Pittsburgh today. I was like, hell no.
Well, we're in the desert for a very long time, so I would have paid to see a stick figure drawn on the inside of the porta-john.
In Afghanistan, we had what's called the ankle game. The ankle game was where, because like, so Iraq, like, women could choose to either wear burqas or like.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
And then, so you've heard of this game? Yeah. So in Afghanistan, that was not an option. If you were a married woman, you had to wear a burqa. And so we had this game where we would be like a girl would be like driving behind her husband on a like dirt bike, and like she'd be there, and like we'd see her like drive through a VCP or something. We'd be like, yeah, she's hot. Did you see those ankles? You know she's fine.
Based off the ankles.
Like, just based off that, like, because that's all you could see. Because like, you were just like, yeah, go get some, bro.
Have you ever seen that Onion News broadcast where they're talking about the latest, greatest real life version Call of Duty that they're going to put out? It's like two guys by Humvees talking about who's hotter, Jessica Biel or Lindsay Lohan, something like that.
I haven't read that now.
I'll send you a link to the video, but that's what that just reminded me of.
There's a video, and I don't know who has this video, but there's a video of me in Afghanistan with my platoon commander and a few other guys. We're literally on a patrol. I think we were coming back from PB Hand, coming back to PB Amir, and I am literally, we're talking about like, so we had this game that we would play, like the name game where whatever, and someone said Natalie Portman, and I was just like, yeah, that was I was like, fucking hot, dude. She's been hot forever. And so I go into,
she went to Harvard.
Yeah, she did. She's smart as shit. So you and she's hot, like,
but I don't care. Keira Knightley will always be my one.
You sucked the bend out of the rug with that one. sorry.
With a smile on my face too.
She's hot too. But no, there's this conversation. I was like, I've had a crush on Natalie Portman since she was in The Professional, because she and I are like roughly the same.
That's weird though.
Well, so here was the debate. This is where it fell in. That's what I got. I was like, are you fucking pedophile? I'm like, no, dude. Like, you don't understand. We're the same age. When I saw that movie, I was her age, and I was like, that girl's totally cute. Like, I got like whatever. And they're like, no, dude, that makes you a fucking pedophile. I'm like, no, and there is literally like 2 kilometers a debate on
this. That is the military.
That is fucking.
That is the military. What weird thing can we pick out of this guy's conversation and then talk about it forever? In the Army one time,
naturally did it, just not even know.
Everybody does. It was like, dude, that's fucking gross. I'm like, no, let me justify this.
Well, the way you said it was like,
let me
she's a
say
professional. I was like,
Well,
you've been scoping her out that long,
dude. Yeah, because we're the same age.
it's not weird if I'm 15 and she's 15.
It's not like I'm 30 and I like saw that movie for the first time and I'm like, damn, girl. Like, I saw that movie when I was a kid. I like my sister was like watching it. And I just happened to watch it with her because my sister's so much older.
Well, sometimes it was like,
sorry, sis.
TV stars are weird. Like Andy Milonakis looked 30. He's 34 and he still looks 12.
Who's Andy Milonakis?
I just work here.
You don't know he had an MTV show.
We're not Joe Rogan, so I can't like. Oh, look at the.
Come on our show.
Look at the screen.
What was he in?
He was in a bunch of Disney films because he just had one of those young-looking faces. Have you seen them?
At least mine was a girl. First,
well, I can't. There's girls that are there too.
I can't carry
have you guys
a conversation.
Seen Children of the Corn?
Oh God, long time ago.
In the movie The Children of the Corn, the main bad guy, I think his name is Matthias or something like that. He was 38 years old playing a 12-year-old kid.
I have no idea. I'm trying to remember. I'm like,
our debate. It wasn't as cool as yours, but it was separate rations. So it was whether or not
cool about my debate. It was me trying to justify to everybody
how you're not a
but
pedophile.
that's why I think it's funny because I can just see you like everybody ganging up on you.
Oh, dude, I was like, we were on patrol in a combat zone, like we're supposed to be looking, and I'm like walking backwards.
Balak's
like,
a weirdo, and you're like, no, I'm not.
And like I think someone was videotaping it. And I was like, no, guys, let me explain this to you. All right. I first saw the movie when I was a kid. She is the same age as me. I've had a crush on her since then. It's not like I'm like, oh, I only want her back then. Nah, she's been hot in every. First of all, Natalie's rap by The Lonely Island gives me such a boner.
I see why they call you the caveman.
I mean, seriously.
And then everybody is like,
I want to fuck. Like, I love that. It's hilarious.
You need a T-shirt that says, I'm the same age as Natalie Portman. Or maybe on the front it says it's not weird, and then the back it says we're the same age.
But don't have it from her from The Professional.
Yeah, you can't have the picture of The Professional on. It's cool. We're the same age. That's just
and then on like the side sleeve, like have the cock ring with the spikes.
I still shudder when I think about that.
God, I don't even want to imagine it.
I couldn't believe they were telling us that. Like that, I was like, I remember looking at one of my a corporal, and I was like, hey, corporal, why the fuck are we having to do this? And he was like, because we were fucking told to be here. It's fucking bullshit. Fall the fuck asleep. I'm like, cool.
So there's an analogy, and somebody's like, oh, what's it like being in the Army? And there's this whole story floating around the internet, and it's like, imagine that you had like an Olympic sized pool container delivered, okay, to your unit. And it's like 120 people. In the Army, that's an average company, maybe. Full stack might be 200 people. So it gets delivered, and the first sergeant, the most senior enlisted person, it's full of soup. The Olympic sized pool is full of soup. And your task.
What kind of soup are we talking here?
What's your favorite kind of soup?
I mean, I'm just saying. I mean, chicken noodle.
Okay.
I can't go wrong with.
If it's tomato bisque, I'm going to be pissed.
Okay.
Yeah, if it's some bougie shit like
So it's probably that. It's probably the one.
It's probably the most disgusting bougie shit you can think of.
It's probably something that you don't like, and and it's as liquid as soup can get. And your task is, as a unit, you have to finish it. And everybody has a full set of silverware. And the first sergeant runs up and starts to eat the soup with a fork. Okay. You have a spoon, a knife, and a fork, and he starts to eat the soup with a fork. And the entire company and everybody else goes, follow the first sergeant's lead. Eat the soup with a fork. And then you go, hey, what if we try the spoon? And everybody else goes, shut the fuck up. First sergeant's eating it with a fork. Use your damn fork. Everybody give me your spoons. And then you just keep eating the soup with a fork until your enlistment is over and you get your DD-214.
Yeah, that's pretty much right.
That's what that briefing makes me think of. This isn't information that's going to be necessary for your deployment. Now shut up and listen. This isn't anything that's going to be helpful for you.
You don't need to
Please pay
retain this
attention.
knowledge. Pay attention. I went, so back to the volunteer conversation that we had earlier, where we were like, oh, no one volunteers for shit. I remember when I was a boot, we had our staff sergeant came to us and was like, hey, you guys have to be at the movie theater for this brief. And we're like, oh, copy that. So we all go over there, and we, like, while we're standing outside of the movie theater, we're like, oh, why are all the new guys here? What's going on? We're like, oh, this is something's weird here. So we go into this brief, and it is all about EASing. Like, it's not part of SEPs and TAPs, but it's all about, like, what your future is going to look like. You can come do this. You can come do that. And, like, we literally haven't gone on our first deployment yet. We're like, we have 3.5 years left on our contract. Why the fuck are they dangling this carrot in front of us right now? And, people, they're like, how many of you have been on, like, 6 deployments? And guys are, like, raising their hand and shit. And we're like, so we're all sitting there. We're all just looking at each other like, guys, I really don't think we were supposed to come to this thing. So we get out of that brief. And that took, like, I don't know. It was long ass. It was like half a fucking day. And so we go out, and my platoon sergeant was also my platoon commander, and he had a swear jar on his desk in the company office.
Nice.
So if you came and dropped, I can't remember what, like a quarter off, it got you like 10 seconds of bitching or whatever it was, where you could just like bitch about whatever was going on. So we all were like, fuck this. We're going to go and grab dollars. This was like the money we would use for like platoon barbecues and shit. So we show up to the company office, and we're all holding dollars like this. And we're just dropping this off. It was like, that was fucking bullshit. I have 3.5 years. I was all about EAS. The fuck you teasing me for, bro? Like,
we had to afford this barbecue while you're gone.
Yeah. Well, so he wouldn't say anything. He would just be like,
Yep,
I got it. Like, he knew exactly what he was doing. He's like, I'm not sending my senior guys in there. They can be in the barracks sleeping. Like, fucking, you got to earn your shit, dude. Like, it's just what it is. Deal with it. Like, all right, fuck. That was an awful briefing. Like, we got out, and like, I remember leaving that brief, and that was the brief where I was like, yeah, fuck re-enlisting. and my buddy looks at me and is like, you got 3.5 years left on your contract. And I was like, I don't give a shit.
Nope.
Fuck it. I was like, send it out. Mark it on your calendar. When they come to me and look at me and go, hey, you want to re-enlist? I'm just going to laugh hysterically. That's all I'm going to do.
I was the extra special type. So I think my initial enlistment was 5 years. When we were about to deploy, I think I had been in for almost 2.5. And they were like, all right, these names, it was like a casual formation, like weekend release or something. Whenever I read your name, after formation, come see me. Blah, 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 Smeltz, so on and so forth. I go up there. They're like, all right, so you have this long left on your contract, but you're eligible now. And I think it had something to do with the fact that at the time our deployments were 15 months.
Yeah, by the way, fuck that shit.
How long was yours?
7.
Okay, so I did 2 and 1.
I could. Well,
when did you get to Iraq?
We didn't. It was beginning of 08.
Okay.
So like March or April of 08. Because we came home like right before Thanksgiving.
So you got to Iraq after I had already been there that long and left weeks after I did.
Yeah, I slept in a Connex box and fucking ate food and, had an MWR room. It was fucking awesome.
Oh, no.
Like,
don't get me wrong, I was on VBC. So when I tell people that I vacationed in Iraq, that's only a little bit of a joke.
Dude, we literally suntanned.
We had a Cinnabon.
Oh, we didn't have that shit. We had the mobile PX.
When your lieutenant or officer or whatever was joking about Toby Keith and Taylor Swift,
that was in Afghanistan. We did.
Oh, okay.
Shit.
So Toby Keith came and played outside.
If you looked at my Iraq deployment versus my Afghanistan deployment, Iraq was like going to Seychelles and just fucking being on a resort, and we were living in Connex boxes, as opposed to Afghanistan. You were like, yeah, this is living in a shithole. Like, all right, I'm in the 12th century. Like, this is where we are. This is what we're doing. I can remember we had just taken the market. And I
said the 12th century.
Dude, it really, like, you'd ask a kid, be like, how old are you? 32? Fuck you, dude. You're like 7. Do you know how to count to 7? Yeah, but I don't know what my birthday is. So fuck you, bro. Like,
yes, I do, but I don't know when my birthday is. So I'm 32.
152 new full moons. So that's gotta be at least 40.
I feel like if you lived in Afghanistan, I'd be like, okay,
dude,
you're not, but I'll sign off on this shit.
Yeah, like where I was so I was in southern Afghanistan, and there was no like paved roads, like my dad sent me like a YouTube video of like a clip from the national somewhere.
Yeah.
He's like, is this what Afghanistan was like? I was like, maybe up in like Kabul or somewhere, not where the fuck I was. He was like, what does yours look like? I was like, dude, I've got 1,000 pictures. You can just, and like, there are no dirt roads, like, our MRAPs would like the weight of the MRAPs would collapse into the canals because the roads couldn't support the weight. I'm like, we had taken this building on this marketplace, and we had set this up as like a kind of a what would eventually be a company base. And I remember I think it was like Staff Sergeant Taylor was his name. He opens we had just gotten tents. Fuck yeah. And he opens the tent flap up one night, and we're all fucking racked out. And he's like, hey, we're flooding. And I looked at him, and we had shut right down. And I was right by the entrance of the tent. I'm like, Stefan, this is not the time to fuck with us. He was like, I'm not fucking with you. We are flooding. And I'm like, Staff Sergeant, if I get out of this bed and we are not flooding, you and I are gonna have fucking words. Like, I was like, I'm gonna put on the box, because we have boxing gloves. I was like, I'm gonna put on the boxing gloves. Ranks are gonna go off. I'm gonna fuck you up, which I could not have done. Like, I knew this. Like, he could have beaten my ass. And he was like, get your shit, get up. We got to figure this shit. And so I walk outside, and we are in this like walled in like field. So there was like a field, and then there was like a compound on top of the hill, and where our tents were in this like lower farm field, and it was all walled off. But the canal had there was like a drainage ditch from the canal into the field that just broke, and was just like the canal was just flooding into our little field. And he's like, told you. And then all of a sudden, just water just started coming in. We're like, oh.
Yeah, I have a whole list of places that I want to go. Afghanistan's not on it.
Dude, I'd buy a summer home there. I don't know what you're talking about. Mud hut.
I had buddies out of Germany.
Nice mud hut in the spring when they have poppies coming in, just right.
Yeah, never got the pleasure of going there. I had buddies that went there from Germany, and they said most of what they did is walk.
Yeah, that's all. I was in
Foot patrol.
I was in a truck 2 or 3 times. 2 or 3 times, I think.
Nope.
One leaving. One when the 5 got blown up. He's fine. Like,
okay.
So
that's good.
And then I think one other time. So, what's that? 25% of the time I was in a truck, we hit an IED where we were.
I don't know if I could put up with that.
We were on foot like the entire time. Like, literally. My squad leader had a tachometer and clocked us in the 7 months there. So I was on the Admon party. So I got there a month before the rest of my unit.
Yeah.
And I gave up my Admon seat to another guy who's having issues with his wife. And let him go home. So I went home with the rest of my... So I was there for 8 months, 9 months, something like that.
Yeah.
'Cause I'm a stellar dude.
Did they have it? Because I don't know if it was Army Reg or DOD. Did they have it written that you got extra money past X number of months? No.
Yeah, no, not at all.
That must have been. That was either DOD at 15 months or it was only Army Reg. Because that's why when I went to Iraq, I got an extra $1,000 a month after the 12 months because Bush changed the length of deployments, but they didn't rewrite the regs, and it only lasted for maybe 2 years. So I got an extra $3,000 for my deployment, which was pretty sweet.
I remember. So
it's gone.
Oh yeah. So I was nice. In Iraq when Obama got elected, and I remember my senior Marines who were enlisted, who were re-enlisting into the Marines, and they were getting under Bush, because this was still when they were re-enlisting and getting $15,000, $20,000, $25,000 to re-enlist for another 4 years.
Nice.
I remember when I was in Afghanistan, my first sergeant came to me and was like, "Hey, you want to re-enlist?" And I was like, my first question to him was "What's the re-enlistment bonus?" And he was like, $2,500. And I was like, respectfully, first sergeant, fuck you, I ain't doing that. He was like, "It's $2,500. I was like, "Yeah, last year it was $20,000. I'd take that tax free." I was like, "You can bump that up, and add a 0 to it somewhere."
I want to say they were offering probably.
Are we still
recording? I can kill it.
No, that's fine. You can keep recording. You just have to edit that out.
I want to say that they were offering 50 to possibly $100,000 for re-enlistment, but you had to reclass to EOD.
Oh, fuck that.
Have you ever seen The Hurt Locker?
Yes, I have. And I remember thinking I remember watching Hurt Locker and I was like, that's fucking bullshit. These guys aren't special forces. The Hurt Locker made it seem like they were special. That's what I remember. It's and my EOD experience, I'm sure, is much different than Army's. But I can remember. So in Iraq, we had Navy EOD. And those guys were pieces of shit. They weren't special forces or anything, but we would find a cache of mortars, waiting to be used. We'd call it in. Yeah. We found 32 mortar shells here, all ready to go. Cool, cordon it off and we'll be there. Where they were was literally a 25-minute drive. So you think, all right, someone's got to go wake them up or get them ready. They'll be here in an hour. Right? Yeah. Okay, they might be at the gym or something. They've got to track them down somewhere on the...
Maybe hour and a half?
Hour and a half tops.
Sure.
7.5 hours later.
Yep,
they roll in. Dude, we've been sitting out in the fucking desert. It's goddamn July in Iraq. Temperatures are getting to 120 degrees. It's fucking hot out here, and I can't take my gear off. Fuck you, bro. What the fuck were you doing?
Yeah.
Oh, we were doing... No, you weren't. You were sitting at the cob. You're a piece of shit.
You were right there.
Yeah. You're 20 minutes away.
We can see you.
Yeah. Literally, you're on the other side of the river. I see you. I know what you're doing.
So ours was very similar. However, in their defense, one of our fellow platoon's squads, and don't worry, we made fun of them for this, called something up, similar situation. Hey, we see something, it's in the road, cordon it off, show up 7.5 hours later. Maybe 7, we were Army, so I don't know if they give us special half-hour treatment.
Probably do.
A little bit of a buffer there.
Those guys got the money. Let's go there.
Yeah, it was a chalk block.
Yeah.
It was a chalk block. So we once we found out that the chalk block made of rubber wasn't going to explode. Probably somebody put it on their Humvee driving down Route Irish and it falls off in the road. And now one of the squads is like, "Oh no, IED!" And so we used it in front of their, because we had like mini platoon offices up by our MWR or whatever. So we used it as like a prop for their door to hold it open.
Shit.
Watch out! Don't
the Marine EOD techs that we had were fucking on point.
Yeah,
they were, because I had a lot of respect for those guys, because they were. So I had them, and so Iraq we had the Navy guys.
Yep.
And Afghanistan we had the Marine guys, and the people would be like, "Oh, this is, it's just you favoring the Marines." I'm like, no. These motherfuckers would go out on patrol with us. So, like, the Navy guys would show up to, like, a potential IED or cache or whatever that they need to destroy, and they'd roll up in, like, a fucking MRAP and, all air conditioned. They had beards and shit. Like, they were, like, fucking SEALs. And you're like, bro.
We can read your Brizard.
Yeah, like... You're not
EOD.
You're not top fucking dog here. Like there's a pecking order, and you're on. Like, whenever they would investigate, they had like this big giant fucking robot that worked maybe half the time, and they like would send that thing out, and I'm like, it's going to take that thing another 2 hours to travel 150 yards. What the fuck are you doing? Like, just go up there, throw some C4 on that shit, and let's be done with it. Whereas, like, the Marine guys that we had in Afghanistan, they'd be like, "Hey, we're going to go on patrol with you." Like, we'd be like, "Okay, where's all like your high speed robots and shit?" And they're like, "Here's my K-bar. Here's my metal detector." And I'm like, "You're a fucking lunatic." Like, why the fuck would you want to go and mess with an IED with only that? Like, I keep losing my mic.
Yeah, you just got to tighten it.
I have no idea how to do that.
It's righty tighty, lefty loosey. There you go.
I'm trying to figure out which of the many knobs to turn.
Just pick one.
Just pick one. Just start messing with a knob.
Well, so we had, for route clearance, we had engineers doing that, and then EOD. So EOD, the funny thing about that MOS in the Army is obviously you could flunk out. It wasn't like most Army schools, like check the box, like you talked about before, where it's like, hey, if you get it wrong, you come back later and do it again. For example, like I went through a shooting school and they had practice, qual. But if you hit standards on the first practice, they just counted that as your qualification. We're like, all right, you're good to go.
Kind of like the SATs.
So, yeah.
You just took the highest score.
You just keep trying, and then, all right, that's your best one. Good to go. But in the interest of ammo conservation, if you got it on the first try, you didn't get to shoot 3 more times.
Ammo dumps are the best.
You qualify, so you're good to go. But in EOD school, if you're going through, because that's in AIT, so that's advanced training. So it's like basic training, EOD school. Then if you flunk out, if you fail one of the courses, they make you an MP.
No, I think if memory serves, and I may be wrong about this, you had to re-enlist into EOD. Like, it was not
as a Marine.
As a Marine, like you could not just like.
That could be possible. I don't know if that's true or not true for the Army. I just know we picked up a guy, and it's not 100%.
It was like I re-enlisted into, because like. He got a huge re-enlistment bonus to go into EOD.
Oh yeah.
And I was like,
would you like to risk your life?
We all
here's some money.
He was like, I re-enlisted into, and his nickname was Kimmy. And I remember we all were like, well, someone's got to be pink mist. Sure as shit, not going to be me. Like, I don't want to do that shit.
Can you imagine that, dude?
Fuck no.
Like EOD, it's like, oh yeah, I got $75,000. It's like, wow, that's a lot of money. That's how much you decided your life is worth.
I have the utmost respect for EOD. Like, I will tell the Navy guys that they were shit when we were in Iraq, but hey, man, good for you. Like, I ain't doing it. Like, that's you. Like, I'm not going to go anywhere near. If you tell me there's a fucking pressure plate right there, I'm going to be like, I'm going to fucking go that way. Like, that's how simple that is.
You guard it, and I'm going to leave.
I will go sit over there and make sure no one comes in this area over here by, like, yelling at them or shooting around in the air or something. But I ain't going to go anywhere near that.
No.
I remember we found like a daisy chain. We found one IED. We found like the command wire for it. And we call it the EOD guys like started tracing the wire.
Yeah.
They found it was like a daisy chain of like,
nope.
A fuck ton of IEDs.
It was a daisy chain of nope.
Yeah. Daisy chain of fuck no. And they were command wires, so this wasn't a pressure plated system. So I was like, we don't know where the guy who is like, if there's a guy watching us on the other end of this command wire. Like,
yeah.
And the EOD guy's like, got it, bro. And I'm like, yeah, all right, I'm going to say this. You're a fucking badass. I get it. Go deal with that shit. And the thing was, like, so we drew straws. So in the infantry and the Marines, like with the EOD guys, they were like, oh, we've got to provide security when they're out doing their thing. So these IEDs were in this ditch in between two giant fucking farm fields. And they were just like, we drew straws. And like, all right, Joe, you're fucking going out and guarding the EOD techs. So if they get shot at, you've got to defend them because we don't know how to fucking take care of any of this shit. So they've got to live. I'm like, oh, motherfucker. So we go out, and these guys were like digging these things out of the ditches and like making a pile of them. And I'm like standing back.
Golly.
I'm standing back like 6 feet. And I remember one of the EOD guys just looking back at me. He's like, oh, you think that's going to help you? And I'm like, fuck you, bro. Like, you'd be lucky if I help you if you start getting shot at or something.
Oh, my goodness.
He's like, dude, I was in the, like, I guess the rule in the Marines at the time, and I don't know if this is true, but you had to be a prior infantry Marine to go into EOD. And he just looked at me. He's like, dude, if we fucking get shot at, I'll fucking shoot back and then deal with this shit. And I'm like, yeah, but what happens if a bullet? I'm like, I don't give a shit. I was like, all right, well, you're fucking ballsy.
Yeah, one of my first experiences with EOD, not the MOS or like a UXO. I think it was a 155 round. So I was actually a patrol on Fort Polk inside the gate. And there's a baseball field. We get a call over there, and then it's a DA cop. So I think I was partners with the DA cop because I was brand new, so still trying to learn how to draw my gun. And a seasoned specialist
for Army guys.
Future reference, in case I ever need it.
Bullets come out of where the hole is.
The hole. Point opposite direction. Got it.
Face towards enemy. They should print that on guns. They really should. That would be hilarious.
That's one of my favorite. But the Claymore, front towards the enemy.
Front towards enemy.
But yeah, they I'm trying to test some things. So this specialist or whatever is there. He shows up, and
these were big boys too.
He was you all right? You need another one?
No.
Okay.
These are 9% beers.
Nice.
Boom.
Nice. Getting the job done.
That's how I roll.
So he shows up. So it's me and my partner who's a DA cop and this guy, and he shows up and he's looking over it. And you know the general rule. It's a UXO, okay? If things go boom, everybody within a certain vicinity is dead, generally speaking.
Yeah.
That's the basic concept. So it's like, what did we learn in basic training? Turn off your radio, turn off your cell phone.
You guys didn't have the little backpack jammer things?
So let's remember, we're talking about on post. I am a police officer right now.
Yeah.
So I have a second chance vest that probably stops at most a 9mm round.
No,
that's what we carry. So when we're on patrol, like it's a second chance vest, I'm a cop, I'm going to like domestics and stuff. So when I say 155 round, this motherfucker is in the woods on post. It's like there's a baseball field, the library, a bank, 155 round on post. So number one, nobody knows how I got there. Like you would think,
where were you?
It would be on Fort Polk.
On Fort.
So we're like driving up and down. There's the barracks. There's the PX. There's a 155 round.
I would love to say that was dropped during like the War or something.
Like what? Like we're not even anywhere near the box, which is JRTC. JRTC is where
was some meth head who was like, I can do something with this.
I mean, I'm kind of impressed.
Good.
How did you get it there while we're playing? Because the ball fields, it wasn't like a single baseball field. It was like a quad. So there's 4 of them. So there's, all kinds of games going on there. There's, this is near post housing and the learning center. But anyways, this dude comes up over at radio on and he's just like, Clay, no, I think it's good. It starts kicking it. I mean, luckily, obviously it was like probably a shell.
I remember the first time I saw an IED like away from like EOD or anything, like where we just kind of like stumbled across it on a patrol. I remember it was like someone looked and was like, hey, here's this wire right here. And just instinctively like went to get like it tangled up on their boot or something. I think this it was in Iraq. He just picks this thing up and like the wire runs across the road, like through this like gravel patch of the road and runs into like this giant like drainage tunnel type thing.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I'm leaving. Like I don't want to be anywhere near this. Like I'm proud. Like if that thing goes off, I'm like 50 yards away. I may take some shrapnel and be okay. But I don't want that to happen. So I'm gonna back away and not be around this.
This is the Veteran Talk Show. If you or someone you love is suffering as a victim of sexual harassment, sexual assault, needs help with addiction and recovery, or mental health and well-being, then please go to veterantalkshow.com/resources. This show is hosted, produced, and edited by Ryan Smeltz. Our co-host is Joe Balak, and a guest starring veterans.